Few movies really succeed in toying with the audience's expectations. Adaptation managed to, by condescendingly alluding to what Hollywood does with their third acts and then doing that. Chinatown did it by following genre conventions to a T, and suddenly not. And Cabin in the Woods kind of did the same thing, but more direct. But these movies are fewer and far between. It's not easy to play with audiences' expectations, which makes 500 Days of Summer all the more impressive. Really, this is a movie about expectations. It's also about perspective, but they kind of go hand in hand. One informs the other and vice versa. Let's start with perspective.
I love her smile. I love her hair. I hate her crooked teeth. I hate her 1960s haircut.
This movie offers a unique perspective of events with its non-linear narrative. Sure, other movies have non-linear structures, but they're typically complex crime dramas, rarely romantic comedies. And to its credit, 500 Days of Summer uses a non-linear structure to tell a mostly linear story. For example, the third act is pretty much entirely in sequence. And even when the story is jumping around earlier in the movie, it's usually jumping around the same cohesive idea. We have this scene, day 118, when Tom tries to define his relationship with Summer.
What are we doing?
I don't know. Who cares? I'm happy. Aren't you happy?
Yeah.
Good.
And she playfully shakes him off. The movie then jumps to day 259 with this sequence, where Summer is considerably more distant, Tom punches a dude, and Summer gets mad at him. This scene, despite being 4.5 months later, continues the same discussion of defining their relationship.
No, don't pull that with me. Don't even try to... This is not how you treat your friend.
Only less playful.
Well, you're not the only one that gets a say in this. I do too. And I say we're a couple. God damn it.
The other times that the movie jumps around exist to offer us contrast.
Et ça, c'était sa vie maintenant.
All of our sinks are broken.
The sink's broken.
This last one is also an example of how the nonlinear story shows us Tom's flawed perspective. When he makes this sink joke 8 days before their breakup, he presumably thinks that things are still going fine. Things are still like they were on day 34 when they first made this sink joke. He says as much right after their breakup.
Things were going so well.
But he's selectively remembering things. These memories cut away too soon. During his day with Allison, he revisits these same memories. And we see more of them, but they're still deceptive. It's not until Rachel tells him to go back over it all do we really see these memories. The point is, Tom lets his memory of the good times
Come on, I love Ringo Starr.
color his memory of the not-so-good times, which causes him to be blindsided by the breakup.
What are we doing?
I don't know. I don't care. I'm happy. Aren't you happy?
By the way, notice the callback on the dialogue.
What are we doing?
I don't know. Who cares? I'm happy. Aren't you happy?
But something else is clouding Tom's perspective. Expectation. The side-by-side expectations versus reality scene, which is probably the movie's most memorable, is not only great visual storytelling, it's a strikingly poignant microcosm for the film's theme as a whole.
There was Charlie. She was nice, but...
Tom has certain expectations from the beginning for how his relationship with Summer will go. Or, more accurately, he has certain expectations for how his, quote, dream relationship will go. And he projects those expectations onto Summer, despite her giving every warning along the way that she's not that girl.
I like being on my own. Relationships are messy and people's feelings get hurt. I'm not really looking for anything serious.
You know that you're not gonna wake up in the morning and to feel differently.
I can't give you that.
And she told you up front that she didn't want a boyfriend.
This creates a conflict of Tom's expectations and Tom's reality. Why does Tom ignore all these warnings? Why does he project these expectations onto Summer? Where do these expectations even come from? Well, the movie teases the answer in the prologue.
This belief stemmed from early exposure to sad British pop music and a total misreading of the movie, The Graduate.
And then outright says it later on.
It's these cards. And the movies and the pop songs, they're to blame for all the lies. And the heartache, everything.
Basically, pop culture is to blame. Movies are to blame. Tom grew up seeing and hearing so many stories about the power of love and how it conquers all and how it makes for happy endings, that he's convinced that Summer's initial hesitancy and cynicism will fall by the wayside when she falls in love with him.
I think you know when you feel it.
And they'll ride off into the sunset together. And anyone who's seen the ending of The Graduate will tell you this is horribly naive. And yet, despite this naivety, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt calling his character selfish, I found that a lot of people identify with this character, and hate Summer as a result.
I hate Summer.
Just like Tom has certain expectations for how his relationship with Summer will go, we as the audience also have expectations for how his relationship with Summer will go. These expectations are due in no small part to the opening image of Tom and Summer together on day 488 with a ring on Summer's finger. We know that Tom and Summer will eventually end up here, so we ignore, or are at least hesitant to believe, this piece of information 90 seconds later.
But you should know up front, this is not a love story.
It's worth noting this opening joke in the title cards. The movie tells us it's a work of fiction and not based on any one person, and then totally discredits itself. Because we immediately call into question this first statement, we feel okay calling into question this last statement, especially given what we already know, that they're together with a ring on day 488. But then the movie does even more to push this expectation, and this is the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Like Tom, we too have seen plenty of romantic comedies that all end the same, about the power of love and how it conquers all and how it makes for happy endings. We know how these stories go because we've been taught by pop culture, just like Tom. And beyond the prologue, this movie pretends to be exactly like all those other movies that we've seen before. It plays into our expectations for how these stories go. Tom and Summer shown side by side growing up, connected even though they're apart, as if they were destined to be together. We see them at day 488, but open on them broken up on day 290, making us think, okay, Tom's gonna have to figure out how to get her back so we can end up here. No problem, we've seen this before. It's further enforced by this whole conversation. The cynic who doesn't believe in love, the hopeless romantic who will teach her.
What happens if you fall in love? What?
Well, you don't believe that, do you?
It's love, it's not Santa Claus.
Of course we know where this is going.
I've never told anybody that before.
I guess I'm not just anybody.
Yep, right on schedule. Moving on. Then we get the scene where he has to fight for her, literally and figuratively. Then we jump ahead to after they've broken up and we see this sad, pathetic phase.
Misery, sadness, loss of faith, no reason to live.
And the failed attempts to get over her.
Waste of time, you know the cake or something.
And then of course, their chance meeting. And then the movie kicks it into high gear, massaging our expectations. This is an hour into the movie, half an hour left, 86 days until this point. We know that this is gonna be when Tom makes his climb back, when he wins her over again. Starting with this gorgeous magic hour sequence, with tight close-ups of their smiling faces and sweet disposition playing, reminiscent of this earlier scene when the song plays. They sit together at the wedding, they joke like they used to when they were together.
Venus.
They talk about their idiosyncrasies.
And when you wake up, your hair sticks up like that.
She catches the frickin' bouquet. They drink and dance together. She invites him to her party.
If you're not busy.
I don't think I will be.
And the perfect expectation icing on the we know where this is going cake, she falls asleep on his shoulder. We've seen all the movies, just like Tom. We know how this is supposed to go, just like Tom. And so far, it's gone according to plan. So we feel okay about ignoring this warning.
But you should know up front, this is not a love story.
Just like Tom feels okay about ignoring these warnings. But we're wrong. Tom is wrong. And the reality of Summer's engagement literally pushes our expectations out of the frame.
And we're trying to be faithful, but we're cheat. I'm the hero of the story, I don't need to be saved.
And at that point, the movie breaks down. Everything it was built on, our expectations, Tom's expectations, was a lie.
This is lies. We're liars.
The reason so many people empathize with Tom, the reason this is so devastating, is because we as the audience are Tom. And in a lot of ways, the movie is Summer. We're taken in by it. It warns us that it's not that kind of story. We nod in agreement but secretly believe that it is. Everything that happens aligns perfectly with our expectations, until it doesn't. And just as any hope for a future with Summer is erased for Tom, the movie begins to be erased as well. There are so many stories, so many movies about finding love, about the relationship that ends up being the relationship. But in real life, most relationships end in breakups. That's why so few people end up with the first person they ever date. And relatively speaking, there aren't that many movies reflecting this. I respect this movie for being one of them. And I admit that if this movie were to end there, it'd be pretty depressing, but it doesn't. Tom eventually pulls himself together. He gets his life back on rhythm. Nice visual. And you might even say he rebuilds his life. The devastation of Summer erases it, so he draws it again. And I love this final scene with Summer, the one we were teased with to start the movie. It's wonderfully appropriate that the one-time cynic did in fact fall in love under fairy tale conditions.
What if I'd gone to the movies? What if I had gone somewhere else for lunch? What if I'd gotten there 10 minutes later? It was meant to be.
It sounds like Summer lived out our expectations, just with someone else. And if we'd followed her around with that guy, we would have ended up with the movie that this one appeared to be. And she even says as much.
It just wasn't me that you were right about.
The story that Tom knows, the story that we all know, about the power of love and how it conquers all and how it makes for happy endings, that story still exists. You just can't force that story, those expectations, onto every relationship. You can't let yourself be limited by that narrative. Because when Tom breaks free of that narrative, literally cutting off the narrator mid-sentence,
He knew. He was sure of it now. Tom was...
Sorry, I just left, can I... one second.
He was pretty sure.
he opens himself up to growth and new possibilities.
My name's Tom.
Nice to meet you. I'm Autumn.
No jobs. I'm still unemployed. We